Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. And this is the closed session of the November 15th City Council meeting for the City of Beaumont. And I'll go ahead and roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara,
Here.
Councilmember Santos,
Here.
Councilmember Fenn,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez,
Here.
Mayor White.
Here. And do we have any public comments for closed session?
No, sir.
I think we did, I think Mr. Johnson.
I'm sorry.
Yes. That's okay.
Go right ahead.
You can go ahead.
I sent an email out to everybody, hopefully they got it. Most people keep me turned off, so I appreciate that. I sent out an email to the council members, and hopefully they all got it, but as you go back to closed session today, I'd like you to consider a couple of things, and I think I've outlined those in the letter already, but I'll repeat it. Number one, is there really a benefit to the city to not go forward with this project, to not grant some kind of a development agreement? Is the age of the tract map itself a factor in making this tract go away? And I believe that by being able to modify the tract map according to the requests and the concerns of the council, we may be able to more efficiently and effectively fill that hole out there in the road with things that the city's looking for. And again, I'd request tonight, as you look at this, what really is the benefit to canceling this project, causing this project to go away? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And do we have any other public comments?
Carrie, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers on the line, Nicole.
Okay, Mr. Pinckney, can you let us know what we're going to be discussing in closed session?
Yes, the council will meet in closed session. Item number B1 will be conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The city designated representatives, City Manager Elizabeth Gibbs, and the Administrative Services Director, Carrie Mendoza. The employee organization is the police managers. Item B2 is conference with legal counsel existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. That involves one case, Melena Garcia et al., case number 522CB1629SSSKKX. Item B3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, and/or 3, one potential case related to threat of litigation by representative of project applicant for tentative tract map 32850. Item B4 is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2 and/or 3, one potential case related to threat of litigation by Noble Creek Meadows LLC related to the Noble Creek Vistas specific plan. And item B5, conference with legal counsel regarding potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, one potential case.
Okay, thank you. At that point, we'll go ahead and adjourn to closed session.
I'm sure he'll need it.
Okay, we are coming back out of closed session, and we'll get a report from Mr. Pinckney about what happened in closed session.
The council met in closed session, item number B1, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, city designated representatives, city manager Elizabeth Gibbs, and administrative services director Carrie Mendoza, the employee organizations, the police managers. There was no reportable action taken in closed session. There will be an item that'll be considered in open session momentarily. Item B2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. One case, Melena Garcia et al., and there was no reportable action taken on that item. Item B3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2 and/or 3. One potential case related to threat of litigation by representative project applicant for tentative tract map 32850. There was no reportable action taken in closed session. Item B4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2 and/or 3. One potential case related to threat of litigation by Noble Creek Meadows LLC related to the Noble Creek Vistas specific plan. There was no reportable action taken in closed session. And item B5, conference with legal counsel regarding potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. One potential case, there was no reportable action taken on that item. And that concludes the report out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pinckney. I'll call to order the regular session at 6:33. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Lara,
Here.
Councilmember Santos,
Here.
Councilmember Finn,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez,
Here.
Mayor White.
Here. And before we do the action on any closed session item, we'll take that up right now.
Yes, and so the item that is before you is a vote on a side letter number 1 to the 2022-2026 Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Beaumont and the Beaumont Police Management Unit, and under the Brown Act, that is required to be approved in open session.
Okay. And did you want to get give us a brief summary of what that's about? I mean, we've
I can do that.
discussed it already, but just for the public.
So this is an amendment to the current police management MOU dated March 1st, 2022. The police managers in the city met and conferred in good faith, and they have agreed to a side letter to that MOU. And what it states is recognition. The city hereby recognizes the police management unit as the only authorized representative of present and future employees in the police captain and police lieutenant classifications covered by this agreement. And it goes on to reference the Myers-Millis-Brown Act. The difference between this proposed language tonight and what we currently have is we are adding the police captain to the MOU and removing the deputy police chief, as that position is no longer in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
And all three employees under this MOU have signed.
Okay, before I entertain a motion, any comments?
Mayor, if the motion could include authorizing me to sign it.
Okay. I'm up for a motion.
I'll take a crack at it, Mayor. I'll make a motion to authorize the revision to the police management MOU, removing the deputy chief and adding 2 police captains, and authorizing the city manager to sign off on that change.
Sign off on the side letter number 1.
To sign off on the side letter number 1.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Santos,
Aye.
Councilmember Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Lara, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Will you please all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin.
There has been a request to an adjustment to the agenda. We're going to move, unless council has any objections, we're going to move item, which item is it?
It's going to be I2.
I2 to right before the public hearings, after the consent agenda. And I2 is the discussion on the creation of a Beaumont Youth Council to serve as an advisory board to the Beaumont City Council. So with that, are there any objections to that? All right, so we'll go ahead and move to announcements, recognition, proclamation, correspondence. I don't believe we have any there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And public comment. Do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
I have no written comments. I'll check with the phone lines. Rudy, do we have anyone on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and skip now to the consent calendar. Are there any items on the consent calendar are taken as one action item unless an item is pulled for further discussion here or at the end of action items? Approval of all ordinances and resolutions to be read by title only. Do we have any public comments on any of the consent items?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. G3, we have a letter. You want to read us now or take it off the consent calendar?
Let's pull item G3. Is there any other items that council would like to pull?
No, sir.
No? Okay, so we'll go ahead and I'll take a motion for items accepting G3 and then we'll listen to the letter for G3.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve consent calendar items G1, G2, G4 through G11.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Santos.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes. Okay, let's hear the letter for item G3 then.
This is on a letterhead from Beaumont Do It Best Home Center. It says, "Hello, my name is Tom Gonzalez, owner of Beaumont Do It Best. In regards to amending of the zoning 6th Street mixed use, I'm writing with regards to the pre-planning review for the Do It Best, Beaumont Do It Best, to construct a new metal building type structure on the north side of the existing building. The new building will be used to store lumber and building materials that are currently being stored inside the store, which should allow us to continue to compete and be a viable part of Beaumont community for many years to come. Also, it will solve the security issues we currently have with parking vehicles and leaving materials outside at night that have been vandalized repeatedly. While we are aware of the new zoning map code finalization in December of 2020, which places the subject project in the 6th Street mixed use, hence limiting the size of hardware stored to 5,000 square feet, we are hopeful there is a resolution that works for all parties. Do It Best is a local family-owned business that has been operating in our current location for 26-plus years, and in the area much longer. We feel it's a necessity to have increased square footage in order to compete with larger big-box realtors. Additionally, the new zoning map places our property on the north side of 6th Street, less than 800 feet west of the local commercial zoning, and south side of 6th Street, only approximately 100 feet west. The desired addition would be permitted in the local commercial zoning. We look forward to your feedback and future discussions to determine a solution that works best in the interest of both the City of Beaumont and Beaumont Do It Best. Thank you for your time and attention.
Okay, so with that information, Mrs. Taylor, do you think it's, can you let us know right now whether or not that's a zoning issue, or would you like to bring it back for next meeting?
No, we're not actually changing the zoning. I'm just looking to verify. This may actually help them because it would give them a path forward. Since we are now allowing uses larger than what the cap was, subject to conditional use permit approval by the Planning Commission. So
Okay.
this would essentially solve their problem.
Okay. With that, are there any other questions or comments from council? All right, I'll take a motion on item G3.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to waive the full second reading and adopt by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, amending Beaumont Municipal Code Chapter 17.02 Administration, Chapter 17.03.120 Permitted Uses for Base Zone Districts, and Chapter 17.19.120 just Downtown Districts.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Santos.
Aye.
Councilmember Finn.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes, and the second was from Councilmember Lara. All right, we'll move to item I2. And who's going to be doing a report on that one? Staff report?
I can go ahead and start if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is concerning the development of a youth council as an advisory board to city council. Basically, we started back, I started with Mayor Lara then, discussing the possibility of having a youth council as an advisory board to city council. And basically, we talked about it, and he gave me authority to go ahead and run with it. So I've been working on it since then, and just recently, we have developed with staff a program that's outlined here in the agenda packet, a program that we think is going to work really well. We've got some very motivated students. The district, I talked to the district, they're very motivated to get involved, and I think it's going to be perfect fit for us. Basically, our goals is to recruit students from the high schools that are motivated, they want to learn about city government, and give them an opportunity to learn about the way city government works and all that entails with that. Eventually, we might move into having different types of activities and workshops and conferences. But for the beginning, preliminary part, at least to get an advisory council, so we can hear the youth and the ideas that they have to present to the city. I think there's a lot of things moving forward that we need that other, voice, and sometimes we don't get to hear that. And I think this would be an excellent opportunity for the youth to get involved and let us know some of the things that they think and some of the ways we can chart our course for the future. So with that, in your packet, you have a program, a manual, we call it, for the Beaumont Youth Council. And it outlines basically some of the requirements and kind of the recruiting process. Staff's looking at about 20 to 25 students, we're hoping, that would get involved and basically start up with some orientation of City Hall and our city government process. And eventually, how that advisory council works will be further discussed. But this is kind of that preliminary start. You know, as long as council thinks this is the way to go, then we can start recruiting students with their application process, developing our council, and moving forward with the way that you want us to really approach things. But we have a lot of projects coming up, and I'm really eager to hear a lot of the voices. And the advisory part, I'm really excited for. Ms. Gibbs, as we were talking with Ms. Taylor too, excited for that, but also the engagement as far as city government and the youth. So I think it has a lot of positive, aspects going on. The county has a youth advisory council. A lot of jurisdictions have this, and how we mold it and how it looks, will take time. It's an evolving process. But I think it's that first steps that we should take, and I'm really excited to bring that forth. So I brought some students here when you open up public comment that would like to speak on this, but I'm really motivated, and I hope council shares my enthusiasm and passes this program.
Thank you. And we do have some public comments on this
Yes, we
item?
do.
Okay, let's go ahead.
First public comment, Mary Jane Diaz.
Hang on one second.
Turn the microphone on for you.
There you go.
Thank you. Hello and good evening, Beaumont City Council. My name is Janu Casa.
And I am Mary Jane Diaz. Today we will be commending the establishment of Beaumont Youth Council. This council intends to amplify the voices of our youth, specifically our Beaumont High School student body. Beaumont Youth Council allows students to obtain experiences and insight on city-related positions as well as city-related events. It is a wonderful opportunity for students, allowing them to be more involved in our community and contribute while also being given while also being able to voice their opinions and input on city-related events.
We would be honored to get your approval of the establishment of this council, not only for the sake of our city, but for the sake of our students. Students like me and MJ have voices and inputs that could potentially make Beaumont a better place for our youth and its generations to come. We thank you for this amazing opportunity to speak on behalf of Beaumont Youth Council. Thank you and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. And do we have any other public comments?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
There are no callers on the line.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up to public comment, or I'm sorry, council comment, questions?
Just
Mr.
a
Penn.
quick question in terms of longevity in the program. Applications will go out each year and so forth, as we've got, graduating seniors, incoming freshmen and so forth. And is it open to all ages within the high school?
So what we plan to do is start with the 11th and 12th graders.
Okay.
And we have our director and assistant director decided, and they've been helping me with the program. So we're going to be recruiting 11th and 12th graders only this year as our, beginning class. And then next year, we plan to move it to the 10th grade, and then the following year, 9th grade. So yes, eventually, we would have all grades involved. Minimum GPA is 2.5, but we're really trying to make it inclusive and open to all aspects of students.
Very good, thank you.
So this item is listed as a review, discuss, and provide direction. Does that mean that if we provide direction that we want to move forward with this, that it's going to come back for another vote and approval by council?
We can certainly formalize the documents.
Can we,
Unless council has specific changes, this is what we would
I would like to
bring back.
get the approval process done tonight if we can.
Sure.
And that way, because we are near the end of the first semester, right?
Yeah. So the plan was to, if this was approved tonight, to recruit next week, to recruit this week, and then have applications available, and then they return the week that we come back from Thanksgiving break, and then have our decisions done right before winter break, so that we can start, yes, for second semester.
Mr. Lara.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez, thank you so much for following through on this and moving it to this point. I think this is a good starting point. Obviously, whatever we come up with is going to be a very dynamic document. It'll grow with the council as it continues to grow, I'm assuming. But it wouldn't have to come back to council for approvals to or any modification, would it, or do you see that happening?
No, what I plan to do is, and if you look at the program, it is kind of broad.
Yeah.
Not very specific, because I wanted to see how it morphs and how it goes.
Okay.
And we can expand on it later as we go through it. But my intention was to get the process going, talk to the students, see what their needs are, and kind of come up with an idea. And then I can, right now, come back and report, and with my discussion, get input as we go further. And if there is some issue with any direction, then we can have that in our discussion, and then we can give direction at that point.
Do we see that maybe this would require a committee assignment, or?
Well, and that's a good question. So right now, I talked to Ms. Gibbs, and we do have a staff member assigned from the
Okay.
staff point of view. So that staff member will be involved of organizing the rooms, making sure we're all set.
Okay.
We'll be having meetings here at City Hall
Great.
once a month. So, there's staff involvement with that. As far as going forward, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly what we
So
have
we can
done.
get those assigned in January? And
Right.
just have Nicole add a new committee to it?
No, CEO's actually gonna run it right now in the beginning.
Okay.
But that's the idea.
Well, thank you for that follow-up, and thank the two students for coming to present to us this evening. I appreciate that.
Mr. Finn.
Yeah, I love the idea and I totally support it. Just one thing I'd like to see maybe in the future, and it might be baby steps towards it, but to have the youth come back and give that report. So maybe in the beginning it needs council help or, some coaching and so forth, and I'm not sure what's needed, but if you feel that the youth are able to come back and report to us and they are willing to come to our meeting and do so, I'd like to see that early on in our meetings so they're not sitting here all night long.
No, and that's exactly the intention. We had already discussed, and that was the intention, is to have them report. This is really
Perfect.
gonna be student-driven. The only thing I'm inputting is because we make decision and direction, I'd have to have bring it up so that we can discuss.
Sure.
But they'll be reporting, and then as far as what direction and things we want them to discuss, that will be a part of our discussions as well.
Mr. Santos.
Thank you. That was a great idea, and I'm more on the students. That would be nice if we could, interject or incorporate the apprenticeship for the students, especially on the 11 and 11 and 12, right? So that's the junior and seniors, right? So that would be that would geared up them to on the future on the public services, and that would be nice if we could accommodate that apprenticeship for the students. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and move to approve the creation of a Beaumont Youth Council to serve as an advisory board to the Beaumont City Council.
I'll second that.
A roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Santos,
Aye.
Councilmember Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes.
And I had one more comment, Mayor, I forgot to mention.
Sure.
To really answer Councilman Lara's request. Yes, we can put it, because obviously I won't be here forever, so we'll definitely put it as one of those committees going in the future where everybody can, put their name in and have a council person involved. Right. Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to items, the public hearings, starting off with H1. Public hearing to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 15 of the Beaumont Municipal Code. And that will be staff report from Sarah Rettmeyer.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Every 3 years, the state of California adopts updated building standard codes. On July 1st of 2022, the California Building Standards Commission published the 2022 California Code of Regulations, Title 24. And pursuant to our California Health and Safety Code, the City of Beaumont is required to enforce these new regulations effective January 1st of 2023. State law does permit local jurisdictions to amend the codes in certain circumstances, and we are recommending some local amendments for administrative and procedural clarifications. It should be noted that the proposed amendments do not modify the original building standards set by the state. Therefore, tonight, staff is recommending to hold a public hearing and waive the further reading and approve the first reading by title only, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, approving the adoption of the 2022 edition of the California Building Standards Code, California Code of Regulations, Title 24, Parts 2, 2.5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 11, with amendments and amending portions of Chapter 15, Building and Construction of the Beaumont Municipal Code.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:55. And do we have any public comments on this item?
No written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:55 and open it up for council discussion, comments or questions. So I'm not seeing any comments or
I
questions.
do have one, Mayor.
Oh, okay, Mr.
Yeah,
Martinez.
just a real quick one. So the only question I have is, there's a lot of, many and most are administrative or consistent with those adopted by other local agencies, but it didn't say all. So the ones that aren't, how do we know which one of those have been, changed? Or is that just the way you wrote it, and you do mean all of them?
Well, we didn't research every city around.
No, I'm
But-
talking about the actual changes you made. Because it sounds like it says most and many of the codes are administrative but it didn't say all of the codes. that
No,
you
they all
changed.
are administrative.
Okay, and I figured it might just be a subjective thing. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
All right, I will go ahead and make a motion to waive the full reading and approve the first reading by title only, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, approving the adoption of the 2022 edition of the California Building Standard Codes, Parts 2, 2.5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 11, with amendments and amending portions of Chapter 15, Buildings and Construction of the Beaumont Municipal Code.
All second.
A roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Santos,
Aye.
Councilmember Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes. Item H2, public hearing and consideration of amendments to Chapter 15.20 of the Beaumont Municipal Code, adoption of the 2022 California Fire Code. And this is a staff report from Kylie Telema.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The introductory information is the same as our building officials. So tonight we have the adoption of the 2022 California Fire Code Part 9. Staff is recommending some local amendments to address local concerns, which consist of fire and life safety and administrative provisions. Most of the proposed amendments are administrative for procedural clarification and are a continuation of previously adopted amendments from prior code adoption cycles. Furthermore, many of the proposed amendments are consistent with those adopted by other local jurisdictions. Our recommendation is to hold a public hearing and waive the full reading and approve the first reading by title only, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, approving the adoption of the 2022 edition of the California Building Standards Code, California Code of Regulations, Title 24, Part 9, 2022 California Fire Code with amendments, and amending Chapter 15.20 Fire Code of the Beaumont Municipal Code.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open a public hearing at 6:58. And do we have any public comments on item H2?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
So we'll close the public hearing at 6:58. Any questions, comments, motions from council?
Mayor, if there are no questions, I'll make a motion to waive the first full reading and approve by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, approving the adoption of the 2022 edition of the California Building Standards Code, Part 9, 2022 California Fire Code with amendments, and amending Chapter 15.20 Fire Code of the Beaumont Municipal Code.
I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Santos.
Aye.
Councilmember Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes. Item H3, public hearing and consideration of CDBG funding request for program year 23-24. Annual consideration of request for community development block grant funding. And is that you, Ms. Taylor?
Yeah, I apologize in advance for the amount you're gonna have to hear me talk from here
Okay.
on out, so.
It's the Miss Taylor Show.
Sorry. Before you this evening, Mayor and Council, is our annual funding request for CDBG. We are currently looking at a request for the fiscal year, program year 23-24. Each year, the city applies for CDBG funds. This year, our anticipated program award is approximately $168,900. A maximum of 15% of that, or $25,335, can be awarded to nonprofit groups. In previous years, we typically fund between $10,000 and $20,000 to nonprofit and retain the rest for city projects. This year, we received one application from a nonprofit, and that was from the Boys and Girls Club of the San Gorgonio Pass. They've requested $35,000 for the Camp Kids program. And that program consists of summer camp, Thanksgiving camp, winter camp, and spring camps programs at Brookside Elementary and Sundance Elementary. The funds are used to offset the cost for families that can't afford the full amount of tuition for the program. The city application this year is for a public improvement project. And staff put together an application for what we're calling downtown blight abatement. But it will essentially be geared towards any combination of activities that include graffiti removal, trash and debris removal, repairing or replacing non-working streetlights, and things like that. The funding will be coupled with other funds that council has just recently allocated. And so we would put the CDBG funds, whatever isn't awarded tonight to the nonprofit, would then go into the pot for downtown. Anyway, staff has reviewed the applications for completeness and to ensure that the proposals meet the city's funding priorities, which were adopted back in 2019 as part of the consolidated plan process. And the applications do meet these requirements. So at this time, staff is requesting that City Council hold a public hearing and approve and authorize staff to submit the CDBG application for the City of Beaumont, and to give the authority to the city manager to reduce or increase the amount funded based on final amount of funding that comes to the city, and also approve and authorize staff to submit the CDBG application for the Boys and Girls Club of San Gorgonio Pass in the amount of $20,000, subject to the conditions of the CDBG program as provided by the Riverside County Economic Development Agency. And I'm available if you have any questions, as well as Megan from the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and open a public hearing at 7:02. And do we have any public comments on this?
Yes, we do. Megan Grisham?
Good afternoon, Mayor White, council members, City Manager Gibbs, and Cabinet. My name is Megan Grisham, and I'm Director of Operations for the Boys and Girls Clubs of the San Gorgonio Pass. As I stand before you today, it has been nearly 3 years since the pandemic and about a year into our new normal. Now, I know new normal isn't always said with the most positive ring, but the new normal at Boys and Girls Club is all about creating a culture of kindness, fun, healthy relationships, and opportunities to learn and imagine. The club is needed more than ever right now. Kids need light, and we are here to be a bright, shining beam, pushing to serve more and do more to insulate our youth and support our community. In order to reach this goal, the Boys and Girls Clubs have expanded our school year partnership with the Beaumont Unified School District, taking the number of youth we serve in Beaumont each day from 350 to over 600 daily, with about 400 more youth to be added on. Children need support, guidance, healthy relationships, experiences, and mentors now more than ever. The club is ready to stand with our community's youth to help them become more resilient, happy, kind members of society. When members walk through our door, a new world can open. Smiles, laughter, games, friends, art, culture, music, dance, goofy jokes, high fives. We did have a goofy joke contest. They were pretty bad. They would rival any dad joke. So we are requesting a grant that will help ensure the youth who need us most continue to have services, and more importantly, more smiles and memories during out of school time. I have included some pictures to help share the light that has already been brought into our members' lives through the use of CDBG funds in the past. If you flip through, you'll see some of the beautiful faces that we serve each day and the smiles that come through our programs, from healthy cooking to learning about art and artists, and to doing simple things that kids don't get to do anymore because they're on tech too much, like making kites and bubbles. We want to help kids be kids again. We want to bring the fun back to their lives, and we want to create a culture that's kind and caring. And we are very dedicated to doing that, and we'll continue to do it as long as we're needed. I want to just thank you for everything you've done to support us so far, these kids and our staff. The club truly changes their lives. You are part of something that truly changes lives each and every day. I also want to take the time to invite you, since we're all about fun, we have a really fun event coming up this Friday. It's called Chances and Cheeses. It's a fundraiser for the club. You get to play some of the games that our kids get to play, but you get to win adult prizes as well. So it's really fun. It's at our teen center this Friday at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any other comments?
No comments.
Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:06. So I have a quick question for you, Ms. Taylor. Just the numbers.
Sure.
It's the 168.9 is an estimate. We can award up to 15% or 25,335. Boys and Girls Club is requesting 35. If we decided to go higher than the 20 that is recommended by staff, we could make a motion that it is 15% of whatever the actual amount is.
Absolutely, and we would just adjust the city's portion down, and I believe the recommendation allows for Ms. Gibbs to execute the contracts based on whatever amounts we
Okay.
decide.
Any comments, questions from council? Mr. Martinez?
Yeah, I would support that as well.
Okay.
The 15%.
Is that a motion?
Yes, I would make a
Okay.
motion. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay.
And roll call, please.
Okay, Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Santos,
Aye.
Councilmember Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes.
And confirming the motion is 15%,
Of-
correct?
of
Correct.
Of whatever the dollar amount, okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Item H4, public hearing and consideration of amendment number 2 to the development agreement for Beaumont Crossroads 2 Hidden Canyon Specific Plan. And that is also Ms. Taylor.
Yes, before you this evening, tonight, Mayor and Council, is amendment number 2 to an existing development agreement, which consists of a partial assignment of an amended and restated development agreement between the City of Beaumont and some entities that are doing operation out at the Hidden Canyon specific plan area. So the site is known as Hidden Canyon. The picture in the staff report shows it south side of State Route 60 at the westerlymost boundary of the City of Beaumont. There's history on the project in your staff report going back to, 1995. And currently, the site is under construction. We have an Amazon facility out there that's existing and another structure that's under construction right now. This second amendment to the development agreement proposes to convey 2 parcels. Parcel 1 of the parcel map 36426, which would go, it's a ULC property, and it would go to MPLD Inland Empire ULC LLC, and parcel 2, which would go to MPLD Inland Empire KRB LLC. All rights and responsibilities of this development agreement that are relative to these properties are conveyed with the assignments. And there's also a site plan in your packet which identifies parcel 1 and parcel 2, which are the respective buildings that are occupied on the site. This action is CEQA exempt. There was an environmental impact report that was prepared for this project back in 1995, and subsequently some addendums done in 2005 and 2012. This development agreement and partial assignment is not subject to CEQA, and it can be seen with certainty. There's no possibility that the activity in question would have any effect on the environment. So there are findings required for any development agreement. City Resolution 1987-34 requires council to make findings. The findings are identified and in your staff report, and they can all be made positively in these cases. And so staff's recommendation at this time is to hold a public hearing and waive the first full reading and adopt by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Beaumont adopting a partial assignment of an amended and restated development agreement by and between the City of Beaumont, MPLD 2 Inland Empire LLC, and MPLD Inland Empire KRB LLC. Staff and the city attorney are available if you have any questions, and the applicant's representative is here in the audience as well.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:11. And do we have any public comments on this one?
No public comments.
Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay. That ULC is not the ULC that we all know and love here.
No, sir. Just a
Just want to make sure.
coincidence, yeah.
So I have a quick question. I can't really tell from this map. I tried to look a little deeper. This is south of this, I'm sorry, south of the 60, west of Potrero?
Yeah, so up, the big hill up where the Amazon is up top, that's the.
So it's
the
between
property.
Potrero and that?
And
that-
yes.
Okay, it's not east of that building.
No, I'm sorry, west of that, yeah.
It is east of Jackrabbit, okay. All right. Mr. Laura?
Just a real quick question. Looking at the site plan that you provided, the detention basins appear to be on parcel C, which is not associated with parcel 1 or 2. Those are the water quality control basins, I'm assuming, and is there an organization that'll maintain?
There's an existing owners organization. If you want specifics, I think Mr. McDonald could speak to that, but there's still the primary development agreement, and there's an overlying owners association that will maintain all the common areas, the landscaping, and things that are not included with the assignment of these specific parcels.
Perfect, thank you.
I didn't close the public hearing, did I?
No, sir.
I'll close that at 7:12. I've not seen any other comments. So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion. Or I'll make the motion. I'll waive the first full reading and approve by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, approving an amended and restated development agreement by and between the City of Beaumont, NPLD 2 Inland Empire LLC, and NPLD Inland Empire ULC LLC, and NPLD Inland Empire KRB LLC.
So it would be just a slight
We have to,
modification to that would be approving a partial assignment of an amended and restated.
Oh, I'm
development
sorry.
agreement.
That's what I read it. We doctored that after your agenda was published. so
Okay.
Noted.
So, and we'll add to that, partial assignment of an amended restated development agreement by and between the City of Beaumont, NPLD 2 Inland Empire LLC, NPLD Inland Empire ULC LLC, and NPLD Inland Empire KRB LLC.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that ASAP.
A roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara.
Yes.
Councilmember Santos.
Aye.
Councilmember Finn.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes. Item H5, public hearing and consideration of a request to modify conditions of approval for tentative track map 32850, TM 2022-0009, and consideration of a third amendment to a settlement agreement exempt under CEQA Section 15061B3. And Ms. Taylor, you're still up.
Yes, I'm still here. So this item is continued from city council meetings on October 18th and on November 1st. As stated, it is a request to amend the conditions of approval for tentative track map 32850 and consider a third amendment to the settlement agreement. This application and this map goes back to 2005. The project was originally 108 lots and has been whittled down to now the 95 lots that are proposed on the map. There's surrounding properties, which are single-family residential, and the Child Help USA, which is to the south of the property in the county of Riverside. Staff and the project representatives and their respective teams have worked diligently to address concerns that were originally presented back in the October meeting. And staff is recommending condition modifications as shown in the staff report in red line. Condition 1.4 adds an expiration date to the map. So the subject map shall expire March 12th, 2023, which is per the second amendment to the settlement agreement from February of 2022. In condition 3.7, the last sentence is added. The plans for the required park area shall be approved prior to issuance of the first residential building permit, as opposed to prior to the recordation of the final map. And that's more consistent with what we see in current processing. So we typically don't require the park space, the full park to be approved prior to recording the map. We've identified the park space, and then we work through the plan check process and the park amenities while we're working on the rest of the development project. And then 3.16, minimum net lot size shall be 7,200 square feet. We have changed that from identifying just a usable pad depth. And then condition 5.9, what has been added to that is that a minor plot plan shall be reviewed and approved by the city council through a public notice meeting. And the minor plot plan is what council will see from the developer of the project, and it will show the homes that are proposed as part of the development and how they will be laid out on the tract map, like which houses and which styles will be put on which lots. And then the minor plot plan, as again stated on 5.9, says that it will be approved by city council. 5.13 identifies that a minimum of 50 residents shall be single story. And then there's one more note on the settlement agreement points, which are on page 338 of your staff report packet there. There are 9 terms in the settlement agreement, and I want to call your attention to term number 2, which speaks to pad elevations on 2-story homes shall be at least 16 feet below the top of the 6-foot block wall at the rear of the lots along Manzanita Road and the south and west subdivision boundary instead of just the western subdivision boundary. And then also states that buildings shall not exceed 28 feet in height. Some of the other terms speak to complying with the municipal code, meeting the minimum setbacks, providing a minimum of a 15-foot average flat rear yard, and then number of 2-story single-family residences not exceeding 45, which with the total of 95, is just the converse of what was stated in the staff report with the 50 single-story. And then it references the conditions of approval which are included, and that essentially is the highlights of the settlement agreement and the conditions of approval modification. So with that, staff is recommending council hold the public hearing, which I think we opened, and I can't remember if it was closed or not, so we probably should hold that public hearing just to make sure. And then approve the modifications to the conditions of approval for tentative tract map 32850, and then approve the third amendment to the settlement agreement for tentative tract map 32850. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the project applicants team is also in the audience if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. So if we haven't continued the public hearing, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:20. Do we have any public comments on this item?
No in-person public comments?
Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have one caller on the line.
Okay, go ahead and transfer them in. Caller, can you hear us?
720? Yes.
Go right ahead. You're on with council.
Hello, sir. It would be advisable if you go ahead and turn off the sound for our meeting. It'll be less confusing for you.
Yes. Hello,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, honorable council members. My name is Fred Gaines with the Law Office of Gaines.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Go right ahead. You're on the council.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members. Good evening. My name is Fred Gaines.
Sir, it would be advisable. if
Sir, you
go
need
ahead
to
and
turn off the YouTube audio.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
No problem.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members. My name is Fred Gaines with the Law Office of Gaines and Stacy. We're land use counsel for the applicant. We support the staff recommendation. We've worked with staff and the city attorney and are available for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? All right, I will go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:21. And questions, comments? Well, you guys are quiet tonight. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the modifications to the conditions of approval for the tentative track map number 32850 and approve the third amendment to the settlement agreement for the tentative track map 32850.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Santos.
Aye.
Councilmember Finn.
Yes.
Mayor Berta Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes. We'll move on to item I1 under action items. Approval of all ordinance and resolutions to be read by title only. This is an update on status of matter considered at the March 15, 2022 City Council meeting regarding consideration of possible amendments to settlement agreement, mitigation measures, and conditions of approval relating to the Noble Creek Vista specific plan. Staff report, Ms. Taylor.
Yes, so before you is just a follow-up item to a previous city council item related to Noble Creek Vista specific plan, which was presented at the March 15th, 2022 council meeting. At that meeting, staff presented an item to council regarding a request to amend an existing settlement agreement and consider possible amendments to conditions of approval for the Noble Creek Vistas specific plan. At that meeting, city council direction was given in the form of a motion and a unanimous vote directing staff to speak with CVAN regarding their willingness to participate in discussions, and if CVAN was willing to participate to work with the applicant or the developer on revising the traffic study, including an analysis at a threshold of LOSC or better. The staff report, attachment A, and minutes to that meeting are attachment B to this staff report. Our recommendation this evening is to receive an update on the developer's progress related to completion of that traffic study and the revised settlement with CVAN per the direction and the motion at that March 15th meeting.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
No public comment.
Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Mr. Johnson, did you want to make a public comment?
Well, I want to speak to the update. Am I supposed to do that? I'm sorry.
No, I think we're good with you speaking to the update. So at this point, we have no public comments, so you're up. If you'd like to speak to it.
Thank you. It's different sitting in the chair here, I guess. Well, thank you, Mayor and council members. I appreciate this time. I do want to give you an update on where we are on status as to what we've accomplished this far. I did send out an email this afternoon, excuse me, that basically did contain some of that update. But I'll go over it as we stand here right now. Council at the March 15th meeting did direct us to get something from CVAN that said that they were cooperating with us on amending the development agreement. That was to be done before the traffic study was started, as was my recollection. On May 13th, in an effort to start the traffic study to a level of service C, we paid a $1,000 deposit to the city, to Public Works, to review the scoping agreement, to review the scope our traffic engineer had sent in to Public Works with respect to getting a scoping agreement as to the traffic study itself. We didn't begin that scoping agreement because that was in order of what we thought that was the second item in order. The first item in order was to bring something to bring something to council that indicated CVAN was willing to participate in, amending the settlement agreement. Like I say, a significant period of time was involved in that. It's a process. CVAN has concerns, as they always have had, rightfully so, I'm sure. And we did negotiate during that period of time with counsel for CVAN, Robert Goodman, and that culminated in a letter that I basically crafted to Ms. Taylor that asked, what do we need to do as far as, is there something we can look at as far as a draft DA before we present the information from CVAN? Ms. Taylor responded, the process is to get them to indicate that they're going to work with us to amend that settlement agreement. And that's, when we'll get the DA underway. She said she would look at it again, but I'm sure part of it was, are we going to get CVAN on board? Ms. Taylor responded in September 21. Our show of participation from this part of CVAN would be an official letter emailed to her, would be fine, and I'm quoting, I believe here. After we receive that, we can get the DA going. On October 4th, 22, we asked CVAN to submit a letter to Ms. Taylor with respect to indicating their cooperation to amending the settlement agreement, which has been the major impediment to anything happening on that piece of ground. That was submitted, like I say, by the firm of Roger Joseph O'Donnell, by the attorney for CVAN, Robert Goodman, to show their participation. They were willing to participate. We'd have liked to see it move faster, but we all know that wishes don't necessarily always come true. But we have made progress to this point in get CVAN. Well, I'm gonna back up just a second. CVAN has been the impediment. I won't say CVAN. The settlement agreement with CVAN has been the impediment to getting anything done. And what I've referred to as the donut hole that's going to wind up out there between parks and the school. And nobody was really willing to tackle that task. I did. I found CVAN to be more cooperative than they probably would have been in past days, but that's neither here nor there. Basically, that once we got that CVAN agreement to council, what we're looking for, and this is not an update, I guess, and tell me to be quiet if you want me to, but NCM, Noble Creek Meadows concurred with the staff's comments during the October 15th meeting that this project needed to be, I'm using the term remodeled, it's my turn. It needs to be brought up to speed, brought up to current speed with respect to the development standards, with respect to the project itself, and that was pointed out by Mr. Lahr, very good comment, and we agree with that totally. The project, and I'm going to use the term again, needs to be remodeled. In order to remodel that, we need the time that a development agreement would give us. It's not a matter of a short period of time to get that done. If we're going to have to, first of all, get the settlement agreement amended. I've had let me back up a couple of steps. This is very important. We're all that's left of the specific plan. Track 29267 is it. I believe there was a meeting at San Gregorio Pass Water Agency tonight, for them to approve acquiring the Ollinger property. Basically, that's being acquired for settlement, water settlement basins. And I also, as the council's aware, the old Fiesta Development Project is now water basins too. That's all that's left is track 29267. Everything else has been accounted for. Outside, Pass Water Agency apparently has exemptions that do not apply to private individuals, and Pass Water Agency has not. Although I've not asked, Pass Water Agency has no indication of, given us no indication that they plan to participate in this participate in the specific plan. They don't need to. They're building water basins. They're not building homes. The modification of the specific plan can accomplish another thing. It can basically get rid of the specific plan as a specific plan unit. I mean, the actual process of amending a specific plan, and you're more aware of that than I am, would involve a general plan amendment and a zone change. Long, arduous process. We've been advised that the land uses in the specific plan can be amended by virtue of an amendment to the specific plan. And that amendment to the specific plan we would propose would be to designate that the Ollinger property, the old Diamond Ollinger property, and the old Fiesta property as non-residential. It could be open space, it could be whatever that classification would be with the zoning that goes along with it. And again, we think that can be accomplished much more expeditiously and efficiently by modifying the SP. So we can get rid of the specific plan per se by virtue of changing the land uses and changing those land uses from residential on those two planning those planning areas associated with Diamond Ollinger and Fiesta to something it's of the council's liking with respect to what we're trying to accomplish here. What it would do basically is allow us. I've talked with council members. I've talked with the city. Thank you very much. They're still talking to me, I think. I'm not sure, but we'll find out in a minute. But the need now for the city's not necessarily residential, that's for sure. They don't like the traffic, as Mr. Laura indicated, that comes along with it. He's also indicated that most of his time is spent fielding questions with respect to why is the traffic so bad, okay? This project now has, like I say, with us being the remaining residential area within that specific plan, that will help that particular matter, okay? We will, as a matter of construction, well, like I say, as a matter of development of Track 29267, there will be a roadway put in from, where the school's at now, which is Cougar, that will go all the way through to Noble Creek Parkway next to the parks, next to the park
Mr.
site.
Johnson, we need to get back to where this is an update on the status at this point. A lot of what you're talking about would be something on a different agenda item.
I strayed, I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay. Well, basically, that's where we're at. We're at the point now where we'd like the city council to look at a development agreement that would give us time. There's no intention to record the map the way it is. It would give us time to amend the specific plan to the liking of the council, to the efficiency of the traffic, and I guess that's our request. Again, I don't know what happened in closed session. I may be whistling into the wind, I don't know, but that's where we are. We feel we moved as expeditiously as we could to get CVAN to move forward. Now it's time to do the traffic study, and that traffic study to a level C, with the traffic basically being our tract. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Well, can I say thank you also to your staff?
Absolutely.
And I'm going to try to get them to talk to me again, but you guys have been very helpful. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we received an update on the progress related to the completion of the traffic study and the settlement agreement. Are there any questions or comments? All right, so this does not have an item to be moved. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is I3, which is discussion on retaining the services of an owner's representative program manager services firm for the new police station capital improvement project, CIP PS 07.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you tonight is to discuss retaining an owner's representative program manager services firm that can help us with getting the new police station constructed and opened within a relatively short amount of time. So City Council retained the services of an architect that the staff has been working on, and in February of this year, you were provided an update. There were 6 tasks assigned to the architect. In February, 3 of the 6 were brought back to council with an update, and then again in September of this year, those final 3 tasks were brought to council in a presentation. And at that time, the cost estimate for the conceptual design was $62 million for a 52,000 square foot building and an outbuilding and a parking lot. At the September meeting, council did direct staff to hold a workshop at a future date to discuss further and in detail more about the design and the cost to propose the conceptual plan that was presented. So since that time, other capital improvement projects have been approved by City Council. You recall the budget workshop, we talked about another $18 million in capital projects. And so staff started discussing internally the importance of the police station as probably one of the leading projects, one of the most expensive projects. We started talking internally about retaining the services of an owner's representative and program manager to help us with planning, design, financing, permitting, and construction. So we looked at other cities and what other cities were doing, and it was noted that they brought that person on, that firm on, early on in the project, right about the time where we're at right now. And so we reached out and started looking at some other scopes that were publicized and formulated one that would work for Beaumont. And so we're recommending that council sign off on this and let us go to RFP. We would bring back a contract award to council as part of the, in accordance with the Beaumont Municipal Code. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item?
No public comments.
No written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
All right, we'll go ahead and open this up for council discussion. Seeing no council discussion at this point, I'll take a motion. Mr. Martinez, did you want to do it? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so I'll move to, okay.
I don't know that there is a motion on this one, right? You just wanted direction?
Direction, I think.
Well, and let me clarify that. So historically, council has not signed off, and I'm talking in recent years, council has not signed off on RFPs before they were issued. However, the magnitude of this, we did not want to go through the RFP process without council's blessing. And so there really technically isn't a motion, more of a consensus that we're moving in the right direction.
I think you are. Anybody disagree?
I agree.
All right, we're done. We'll move on to item I4, citywide truck routes, and staff report from Robert Vestal.
Sorry. Of course, it's a goofy kind. You gotta plug it in. Okay. I got it right here. There we go.
The attachment? I'm sorry.
Robert has.
Oh, okay. As soon as it's on the screen, they'll get it queued up.
Yeah. I apologize for the delay. There we go. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city of Beaumont has experienced significant growth in the last 20 years. In 2000, the population was 11,000. In 2010, the population was approximately 37,000, and the current population is approximately 55,000. Consequently, this growth has led to impacted roads and increased delays. To combat or reduce congestion, the city has several projects in various stages. So I have a brief list here. I have 4 projects that will be in construction within 2 years. That is Oak Valley Parkway widening, Pennsylvania Avenue widening, 2nd Street extension, and traffic signal upgrades. A few construction projects, a few projects that'll be in construction within 5 years are the I-10 Cherry Valley interchange in the city of Calamasa, Pennsylvania Avenue grade separation, the I-10 Pennsylvania interchange, the I-10 Highland Springs interchange, the SR-60 Potrero interchange, and the Sun Lakes Boulevard extension in the city of Banning. A few projects for construction beyond 5 years or in the future is the Potrero Boulevard extension and the I-10 Oak Valley interchange. I do have some slides illustrating those projects if council wants to discuss those a little bit later. So as part of the 2020 general plan, a truck priority route was developed. The intent of the truck priority is to identify routes that facilitate efficient and safe truck mobility throughout the city. In the 2020 Truck Priority Network exhibit on the screen, the green lines represent the priority roadways. Roadways in the system that are not prioritized or not shown in green are restricted to trucks under 5 tons except for vehicles making deliveries and pickups. Highland Springs and First Street are designated as priority and currently impacted. Entitled development to the east of the city has the potential to significantly increase congestion. Identifying potential mitigations and prudent and are prudent to orderly development and to minimize impacts to already impacted corridors and intersections. On November 1st, 2022, City Council allocated $250,000 for a citywide traffic analysis. Staff intends to develop a request for proposal, in order to engage a traffic engineering consultant to assess potential solutions to ease congestion. As part of the scope, staff will include a requirement to review existing truck priority network and modify as necessary. And as stated, the Highland Springs between First Street and Brookside Avenue, and also First Street between Highland Springs and Veely Avenue are currently shown as priority routes. These segments will be further analyzed to ensure that they align with the goals and objectives of the general plan and the current environment. Additionally, corroborative solutions with neighboring cities should be explored to minimize existing impacts and to identify preferred truck routes to and from future developments. So with that, staff is requesting direction to assess expected impacts from future development. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item?
No written and public comments.
Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, we'll move to council comments. I have a couple of questions. But Mr. Finn, I'll let you go first, though.
Okay. Excuse me. So I wasn't around when this was first put together, so I appreciate the staff bringing this. This was partially from my request, and and just the frustration that we hear from the general public on, it's traffic, traffic, traffic. It's all we hear. And so does staff have any recommendations at this point? I know we're going to have that study come forward of, is there any other Band-Aids or anything that we can do to get by? Because as we see the growth comes, and then when COVID, we didn't realize the impact of it because people were staying home. Now that that's kind of by the wayside, we're seeing everybody out everywhere, and that's when everybody noticed it. And so I see some choke points, when I drive through the city and so forth, and not to pick on any neighboring cities, but for example, as Calamasa continues to grow, then that just blows up the Cherry Valley side in terms of the Cherry Valley interchange on our west end of Beaumont. We haven't seen much of an impact on Highland Springs in terms of getting any worse. It's just been bad for many years. But if that project, that warehouse project, comes through in Banning, that's potentially going to affect that, because I don't think Banning in any time soon is going to be able to extend Sun Lakes Boulevard down to Sunset. And so that will make that situation worse. So, and not to point blame at others, I mean, we had the growth too, and so forth. And many of these neighborhood projects were approved many years ago, and as people move and change, and with the economy the way it is, people tend to put multiple households together in one home, and so that adds to it as well. I wanted just to show the public that we're looking at everything. We're trying to do what we can. I know we're limited on funds for projects, but just is there something more than maybe, or even tweaking these routes to make it a little bit better, and wanted to get staff's kind of just general opinion on the matter.
So I do want to address one thing that you said. Do you have Sun Lakes Boulevard? We do have a exhibit showing that Sun Lakes Boulevard, how it will be punched through. It is in our neighboring city, but we did get an update from their city manager last week or the week before. So this is what Sun Lakes Boulevard will look like when it does get punched through. And I understood, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, I understood from their city manager that this would be in construction by the end of next calendar year.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Yeah, they're working out some entitlement issues with some property owners and things like that. But I just wanted to show that. So that is something that is coming in our neighboring city. But to answer your question about, is there any kind of Band-Aid that we can do right now? I really recommend that we do the traffic study with the consultant. And Robert, you can chime in. My conversation with Jeff Hart, who happens to be at a conference right now, is we could do maybe some better signage, things like that. But we really do need that analysis done to look at, maybe there are alternate routes within our own city that we should be looking at.
Okay, and then this has been brought up before, and I don't want to get too far off topic with it, but it is reference to traffic and so forth, is, if I have the street right, eastbound First Street at Sun Lakes Boulevard. There's no protected left-hand turn lane there. And that light is very short in terms of duration. So I know that we have an agreement with the city of Banning that Beaumont oversee the traffic, if I'm saying this correctly, oversee the traffic light operations on that. Does that fall within our jurisdiction, or because it extends into Banning, is Banning the authority for a potential left-hand turn lane onto Highland Springs North?
Sure. No, the city of Beaumont is the authority under that agreement. And we're about 2 weeks out from installing a dedicated left turn lane on both the east direction and the west direction.
Okay, good. Okay, that's very nice to know.
Real quick for clarification, Did you say First and Highland?
Yes.
And you're talking about First and Beaumont,
Oh.
correct?
First in Highland Springs.
Yeah, okay. So
Okay.
same, we're on the same page. I may not have said it right, but same page. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't, I don't remember that ever being a discussion before. So-
I remember the public had brought it up in the past, and I think we talked about it briefly, but I don't know if we were doing anything about it.
Yeah, so the city found low-hanging fruit there. The original design called for a protective left-hand turn, but it wasn't constructed per plan. So it was easy for us to engage our traffic maintenance contractor to perform the work. So he gave us a quote. We're just scheduling, reaching out to him to schedule the work.
Okay. And so then as Banning finishes their Sun Lakes Boulevard extension, then that'll help that.
So I'd like to jump in again in case you want to continue discussion
Okay.
after I ask this question. So let's get a little more clarification. So protected left going from First onto Highland Springs?
Yes, that's correct. From
Going
First-
east and going west?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the past, when we shut down that left-hand turn lane into the gas station off of Highland Springs, you all remember that?
Yeah.
We got approval and the okay from the city of Banning to do that. And then later, they came back and slammed us and said that we shouldn't have not have done that. Are we going to have a similar issue here with putting in a left? I know everyone in Sun Lakes wants it. I just want to know that we're not getting the city of Banning back into a mess here. And so I would like to ask that before you. That way you can still continue.
Sure.
Yeah. So we did reach out to the city engineer for Banning. They've been in
Okay.
in the loop this whole time, although I can't guarantee that.
That they won't change their
Yeah.
mind like they did last time. Yeah, okay. All right. No, that is outstanding news, really good news.
Yeah, so it's little things here and there of what we can, like as you point out, low-hanging fruit and so forth. And the last thing to bring up is when we talked about previously closing Veely and you know, and we left that as, hey, let's go find out more information. I'd imagine this traffic study will help and address that particular area as well, correct?
Yes, so there is some discrepancy between the general plan truck priority roadway, excuse me, I got tongue-tied there, and what the staff, and I think the council has been involved in redirecting traffic through there. So I think this would be a great opportunity to reevaluate that area in particular.
Okay. So I'll be quiet for now. Something else might pop up from comments, but I think I'm good. I just wanted to make sure that this was brought up to show we're doing what we can till we can find some big dollars to fix the big problems.
Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. So I agree. I think the traffic study will definitely answer a lot of questions or help us plan better. Education's one of the components as we plot out our truck routes, making sure that, industry understands where our routes are. The only thing I just want to point out is, and this will be obviously come back once we have the study, is the mitigation part as far as consequences and enforcement. Because we definitely need to start talking about, okay, here's where our established routes are. We need to make sure that within this conversation, we're talking to PD to see what it's going to take for enforcement, whether we did task force, whatever, chief and staff decides would be the best approach, but also for the consequences. And I bring that up because I know as we're talking about ordinances needed to establish the truck route, we also, I believe, would need some sort of an ordinance as far as what the penalties would be. And I'm not sure if there needs to be a study for that or, what we need to do in order to incorporate that. But I think it's time that we definitely start, putting our money where our mouth is and enforcing it. Because that is a little thing too that forces, well, not force, but it keeps them complying with where they need to be. I was coming home the other day and I was coming up 6th and I noticed a truck was coming out of Veely. And they came up and they went around and they went through the city streets and they came back around in order to get the freeway again. and I know it happens, I understand that. But little things like that is what gets the public upset because they're not where they're supposed to be. And if we can start, pushing the compliance and showing that we mean business and doing enforcement, a couple of those little penalties will sting and, people will start understanding that we really mean business. So I just wanted to make sure that's a part of the foresight as we come back for future conversations. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Lara.
Thank you, Mayor. So, I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Martinez's comments on the traffic penalties. The other thing I was wondering is, as you drive around, because I've driven the truck routes, and I'd also like us to look at better signage, maybe larger signage to maybe reduce the, I didn't see it, item. The other question I have is that the dedicated left-hand turn on Highland Springs, is that signal arm, those poles have already been ordered? Because I know it's like a 6 to 8 month turnaround time, and we're still waiting for the ones on First and Beaumont Avenue. I know that we have those, we're just waiting to get them installed.
So specifically to the Highland Springs, it doesn't require any upgrade to the poles, mast arm. It's only the signal head that gets replaced. Currently it has a 3, your typical red, yellow, and green. So we're going to replace that with a 4-head traffic signal head that includes the protected arrow.
And that'll be on Beaumont and Banning's side, correct?
There
There's
will
two
be.
of them that need to be done that way?
Yeah, that's great. It'll be 4 heads in total. The little half poles on the corner.
And as
you'll
the mayor indicated, if we can get something in writing from your traffic engineer, that would be greatly appreciated. Prior to us doing the work, I would hope. And I also want to make sure, so the city of Beaumont is covering the cost for both of those, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. That's all I have, Mayor, at this point.
Well, you took some of my questions, Mr. Lara.
Psychic.
That's okay. I'm going to ask him. I agree with you about the signage. So we do have restrictions on the green areas for trucks over, I think you said 5,000, something like that? Okay. So I would think we could consider some signage indicating that on the, not every green route, but on the areas that people like to, that the truck drivers like to, just defer from. And then also, I really think we need the truck route signage is there, but I think we could improve that. So that's on truck signage. I've always been, ever since I've been on council, I've been an opponent of those signs that cities put up or school districts put up that said this project was developed by, and they'll list the council members. If we could put that on the left-hand turn lane coming from the Sun Lake, I would be in favor of that. Or just something paid for by your neighbors, the city of Beaumont, something like that. So, is this a truck study under your authority approval?
No.
Not truck study, traffic study.
No, it would have to come back for contract award.
Okay, but the RFP,
Yeah.
you don't need our authority, our approval on that.
No.
So I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but if the traffic study, we've done traffic studies before, and explicitly I'll talk about 6th Street, where it said that we should keep a certain speed going on 6th Street from Beaumont Avenue to the on-ramp to the 10. And that we felt it was, when we had a discussion about that, council didn't like the speed that we had decided on. And we asked if we could adjust that speed. I think it was down as opposed to what it was. And we were told no, that you have to stick with what the study says. So if the study comes back and says that, for example, from on First Street from Highland Springs to Commerce? If that comes back and says that we cannot make that a truck, prohibit trucks on that, I mean, is that something that council could override? Do you know?
I'm not familiar if council can override that. I think it'll be two different studies. Oh, I think we're discussing potentially two different studies. One will be a traffic analysis to support the truck priority roads. And then I think the analysis you're referring to is a speed survey, which is governed by the California state, maybe the penal code.
Right, and I'm not asking about the speed on this, but no, I was saying, are they similar in our restrictions as to what we can and cannot do? In other words, if the study comes back and says.
I think it's two different issues.
Okay.
The situation that you described that we had before, you can't set speeds arbitrarily. They have
Okay.
to be set based on the study that's done. Otherwise, you'd have cities arbitrarily setting their speeds low in order to write tickets, speed traps, that kind of thing. And that's what those rules are designed to prevent. But I don't know the answer to your question, but it's something that I'm sure staff could look into and get back to you on. I can't think of any logical reason that you wouldn't be able to make a policy decision that you want certain thoroughfares used. Yeah.
Okay, because I know in a lot of issues recently, other cities are doing that. So I just want to make sure. And the reason I bring that up is to recommend possibly to the next mayor that we have a two-person council subcommittee to work with what comes back as far as putting in place some truck rules and restrictions after we get all the data that we need. And we really need the logistics mitigation fee. And we need to take into account the fire truck that we just bought, and we need to take into account these kinds of traffic decisions that we're making. So I figured I could sneak that in there. So if there are no other questions or comments, Mr. Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad that on the, First Street and Highland have that traffic signals, and I'm not aware that, we're working on that, tell you the truth. I mean, the mayor's right. I mean, and it's a good surprise for us, which is a good surprise, working on that. On the Beaumont and First Street, I mean, that one in there is overdue. I mean, we've been working on that since last year to have that. And if that will happen, I mean, are we going to do also the 6th Street and Beaumont Avenue? Do you know?
Yes, so some more
Okay.
great news about 6th and Beaumont. Those plans are ready, the specs are ready, the RFP was created, and it'll be, again, approximately 2 weeks for staff to vet the RFP and prep it for going out to bid. So we anticipate that occurring relatively quickly. The First Street and Beaumont Avenue, unfortunately, Caltrans is still involved, and we've been grinding to get the plans finalized for that, and then also Caltrans approval for that. So we're still a little ways, unfortunately, on that one, but we're definitely pushing for it.
Yeah, I know on the, First and Beaumont Avenue is really the challenges is Caltrans on that. And I'm aware on that. Now on the truck route, and I know that we discussed this on the Luis Estrada going on Valley. And I do agree, we agreed on the signage. And I haven't seen any signage on that route yet, on that, Valley and Luis Estrada. And then I think we have to do some road constructions on that too. So that will entice them to use that road going to California all the way to Beaumont Avenue on that. So we haven't seen on that.
Mayor, we have an update on that. Yeah.
Sorry,
That's
I apologize for jumping in remotely. I don't know if you can
Okay,
hear me.
Jeff, come on. I want to hear it from you.
I'll take it on viewing. So we, as identified, especially by Councilmember Lara and Martinez, is there were some concerns about the turning movement in Valley and Luis Estrada. those improvements have been made. We certainly didn't want to post any signage prematurely to the widening of the intersection there, or at least the turn radius. That has now been completed. So now we can follow up with obviously posting signage and working with notifying the existing developments, specifically, Amazon, Wolverine, the larger industrial tenants that we have to move forward. So, good news, that's moving forward. To circle back on a few other things that were mentioned this evening, as far as enforcement, enforcement is certainly a component, but, Public Works and the PD really trying to work closely together where we do not create a situation where we are overwhelming or overtaxing PD for enforcement. We want to make sure that we come up with a solution that's implementable and that is, clear and concise so that it's functional but minimizes the impact to PD, because they certainly are, have their own set of challenges. Signage enhancements will take in. We can certainly put up signage enhancements. I think anything notification-wise to the public that we can do is the better. As far as Highland Springs and First Street, we largely the concern of Highland Springs and First Street was at least concurrently brought about by Banning as well. So we will make sure that we have their concerns or their concurrence, but this was an item that they've identified previously about concerns as well on First Street and the protected turn movements that we have at First Street and Highland Springs. So I don't anticipate certainly any resistance to that. They've been receptive and worked with us throughout the process. But certainly to appease the council, we will ensure that we have their concurrence, but they have been part of this process, and it's something that they've continuously voiced their support for. Established versus adopted truck routes. I think we need to be clear that the truck priority network shown in the general plan is a planning, it's a guideline, right? And so this is the opportunity now as we move forward with this study to establish truck routes that are concurrent, not only with the efficiency and the functionality that we're achieving or desiring, but also aligning with kind of council goals and directives as well. So there is certainly some discretion as far as truck routes go. As Robert mentioned earlier, there is not necessarily as much when we talk about speed reductions, stricter restrictions that are not rooted in some sort of, technical analysis. But as far as the routes, we can certainly, community engagement, council involvement are certainly, significant components in that. When we talk about, cooperation, I would like to reiterate, that it is challenging the project that we're speaking about here as far as projected future truck impacts. Cooperation is certainly something that needs to be a component of this, right? Is we need to do the best we can to work with our neighbors to ensure that we're not impacting not only our residents, but, surrounding residents as well. And if the better means of proceeding here is an alternative truck route or establishing an identified truck route that moves that traffic to the east and ultimately to a different access to I-10. And I think that's something that, not only staff, but council can certainly be a part of. I think it's a step in the right direction. And the establishment of a technical study to make this rooted in facts will certainly support our cause.
Thank you, Jeff. Can I continue, Mayor?
Sure.
On this, on the truck route, and if we could, probably make a studies also on the, especially on Highland Springs and First Street and Second Street, all the delivery trucks or hauler in there to put the studies on the time elements when they could, do delivery and getting on that street, because I travel a lot on that on Highland Springs and First and Second Street, and I know LA, and my experience is they have a certain time that they could deliver some to their, probably I'll mention Walmart and Home Depot and everything, not delivering on the rush hours or our shopping center, hours on that. And if that will be, Jeff, our staff could do a studies on that, that would be great. So that will minimize the heavy traffic on Highland Springs, and also developing the Pennsylvania on that side, because there's a lot of trucks going in there. To minimize that, probably, the mayor mentioned about the penalty, and our Mayor Pro Tem Martinez mentioned that too. I mean, that would be great to incorporate that to that, maybe policy or ordinance on using that street on there. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Finn?
We absolutely can.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think we absolutely can. I think that the study will help us understand, where these impacts are coming from. And so if there's an effort that needs to be made with some of our local businesses in order to help mitigate some of those impacts, we will certainly look into that.
Okay, Mr.
Very
Finn.
good job. Thank you.
Chief Talese, can I borrow you for a moment? So as you're coming up, questions for you in terms of, hot spots in town. I know you've mentioned previously that you look at accident reports and so forth. Would that information be shared with this traffic study? And then also, how often do you assess the situation in terms of where we have problems throughout town and so on?
Absolutely. So we look at monthly statistics.
Your microphone's not on.
Sorry.
Oh, green light's on, but. So monthly, the police department evaluates all of our statistics, including traffic collision and citation statistics. And so we produce the 5, what we'd call the hottest intersections in the city for collision data. And for example, that's how we assign, our motor officers, our patrol officers, and their discretionary time.
Okay. And then last question, we have a CHP, dispatch center or whatever they call it, in town. Do they only patrol the freeway, or do they pay attention to what goes down Highland Springs, and do they write tickets there too, and that sort of stuff? Or is it just Beaumont that takes care of that?
Well, one of the favorite sayings of the highway patrols, all roads, all codes. So they'll remind you that they have the authority to write citations anywhere in the state of California. But primarily by legislature, their functions are state highways, interstates, and county areas. For example, Cabazon might be an area where they'll take collision reports for the sheriff. In Beaumont, they'll handle Highway 79, the I-10 and SR 60 primarily.
Okay, so if we had some teeth to our ordinance with the truck routes, that we'd be relying on your department to take care of that?
Correct. And the benefit of commercial enforcement or enforcing the Beaumont municipal codes is the majority of the citation revenue stays in the city. So when we enforce the California vehicle codes, the majority of that goes to the state of California. And the city realizes very minimal. So, which is, 2.1 is we don't have quotas by law and we don't generate revenues in bad budget times by citing our residents. We don't realize much income from that. But when it comes to commercial enforcement, overweighted vehicles, unsafe commercial vehicles, those citations are very expensive for the purpose of deterrent. Because if a truck has, worn brakes or they're overweighted, the collateral damage is quite significant versus a pedestrian vehicle.
Okay. All right. Appreciate the information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lara.
Last 2 comments. Thank you, Mayor. Do I understand, if I remember correctly, we have a Caltrans liaison. Have we reached out to the Caltrans liaison to help us get this plan approved for First Street or the signal light yet?
May I jump in here, because he just stole my next comment. I sit on RCTC with the Caltrans representative, and I have reached out to him before on other issues. I'll reach out to him on this one. But also I was going to suggest that you reach out to Dr. Ruiz's office and see what pressure he can put on Caltrans to get the First and Beaumont up and running.
And it was, when Senator Bogue was here, it was brought up to Senator Bogue that particularly District 8 is extremely difficult to deal with. And that was a common theme from another city that was represented.
So I've started to build a relationship with the gentleman on RCTC, and he does take my calls, believe it or not. So I'll reach out to him. But Now, you have a second comment?
And we'll follow up with our elected officials.
Okay.
I did, but I forgot what that was when you stopped me, so.
That was my plan. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the, okay.
I remember what it is now.
Okay, you got 30 seconds.
Really quickly, Jeff, I looked at a study that was done looking at signal lights. Instead of using like a timing code, they looked at signal lights that were actually based on traffic volume. And they modified the signal light based on the volume of traffic, not necessarily the time. So just make sure that we look at that in the future, if you would, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point. You know, and we've looked at this based on, you know, I think previous comments that y'all have made, and certainly, as we move forward with the study, we will look at not only, more visual improvements we can make, but things that we can look at as far as, what is the capacity? What do we have as far as, capacity in our controllers? Can we look at smarter controllers that can, wean the amount of wait time that we see, specifically, at obscure hours, right? And I know this has been brought up before, Cougar and Beaumont, and there's certainly other areas in the city where it defaults to a timing that's not necessarily reflective of the real condition. And so, I think that needs to be a key component of the analysis that we are undertaking.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Vestral, I just want to tell you, you did a great job tonight. I know sometimes it's hard to jump in when your boss is out doing whatever. So I do appreciate what you brought tonight. So thank you. We'll move on to item I5, Third Amendment to the professionals. You have the direction you need on that last item, right? Yes. Okay. Third Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement with Moffitt and Nickel. Staff report, I guess that's going to be you again, Mr. Vestral. Yeah, okay.
Well, good evening again. The city is planning to procure federal funds for the construction of Pennsylvania Avenue grade separation project. Projects that use federal funds are required to comply with the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA. It's anticipated that the project will qualify for a categorical exemption. In addition to NEPA compliance, the project will need to prepare a preliminary environmental study, a PES, for Caltrans to identify any additional technical studies needed as part of that NEPA. City staff is proposing to amend the existing professional service agreement with Moffitt and Nickel to enable these services to be performed. On December 19th, 2017, City Council approved the original professional service agreement with Moffitt and Nickel for $295,523 to perform the environmental services for 3 CIP projects. Those would be the I-10 Pennsylvania Avenue interchange, the Pennsylvania Avenue widening, and this project, the Pennsylvania Avenue grade separation. On January 2nd, 2019, City Council approved the First Amendment to the agreement, which included regulatory permitting and MSHCP services for an additional fee of $51,918. On February 2nd, 2021, City Council approved the Second Amendment to the agreement to include additional regulatory permitting funds for Pennsylvania Avenue widening project due to updated environmental regulation and requirements for an additional fee of $64,528. This proposed Third Amendment would modify the scope to include the NEPA and PES, extend the agreement beyond the initial term for 1 additional year, and increase the compensation by, $144,705 for a total for a total not to exceed amount of $556,374. Funding for the Third Amendment will be paid from the available CIP budget per municipal code 3.02.070, an extension of the contract beyond the initial term requires a 4/5 vote for approval. With that, city staff is recommending that city council approve by the required 4/5 vote the third amendment to the professional service agreement with Moffett and Nickel for the Pennsylvania Avenue Grade Separation Project in an amount not to exceed $144,705.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item?
No comments.
Okay.
Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, and just to point out, Mr. Finn, in case you weren't aware, our ordinance says that if we go past 5 years, it has to require a 4/5 vote to extend it. And any comments or questions from council? Seeing none, I'll take a motion, please.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve by 4/5 vote the city council of the third amendment to the professional services agreement with Moffett and Nickel for the Pennsylvania Grade Separation Project in the amount not to exceed $144,705.
I'll second.
A roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor White?
Yes. Item I6, approve third amendment to agreement for an extension of a contract with Clinical Laboratory Services of San Bernardino Incorporated to provide laboratory testing services at the City of Beaumont wastewater treatment plant. This one does not require a 3/4 of 4/5. It does require a 4/5 vote. Before you start your staff report, let's see if council wants to hear your staff report. All right. So is there anyone who objects to making a motion on this item? Okay, I'll go ahead and move to approve the third amendment to agreement for an extension to June 30, 2024 with Clinical Laboratory Services of San Bernardino Incorporated to provide laboratory testing services at the City of Beaumont wastewater treatment plant in the amount not to exceed $191,000 if approved by a 4/5 vote. And I'm sorry that we kept you here all night, but, all right. So that's my motion.
I'll second that.
And roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor White?
Yes. Item I7, approval of city attorney invoices for the month of October 2022.
Because this item involves my law firm, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay, item I7, do we have any public comments on this item?
No comments.
Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, thank you. I move to approve the invoices in the amount of $97,518.15.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor White?
Yes. Item J, legislative updates and discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a brief update for you this evening. I'm not sure if all of you received this email from League of Cities or not, but I'm happy to forward it on to anyone who's interested. League put out a 2022 legislative year in review, and it is a really good recap of all of the highlights of the different categories of legislation that's passed, some of the information on the like bill trailers and things like that. And so it was really good. I will, again, let me know if you want it, or I'll just send it to everybody so you have it. The one highlight they put in here that I thought was really interesting was, although the legislature still retained a supermajority of party in one direction, in the same direction we currently have, there will be 35 new legislators in the House, in the Assembly this year. So that's the biggest turnover or change that we've had in quite a long time. So the dynamic, I think, is going to be a little different up there. League has done a good job of keeping us apprised, as have our lobbyists and our various connections throughout the different electeds that we have. And then lastly, the anticipated focus this year coming up in the legislative session for '23, although we've been housing heavy for the last few years, I anticipate some of that will continue. There is a little thinking out there that because of the economic situation with inflation and some of those other interests and what's going on with that we're going to see a shift in a little bit in what the legislature is focused on. So we can anticipate to see some bills targeted towards addressing or attempting to address those issues. So we will be monitoring. I believe we're going to have the legislative platform up for discussion for council on January 17th. So we'll be bringing that to you. In the meantime, I'll send this out, and I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have on anything.
Thank you. Any public comments on this item?
No.
Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, Mr. Finn, you have a question?
Yes, Ms. Taylor. I read briefly that the governor shot down homeless plans for many cities across the state. Are we impacted by that? Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item K, Economic Development Update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Economic Development Committee met last Thursday on November 9th. Really had a good discussion, lengthy discussion on our iteration of the draft downtown business incentive program. And after that discussion, receiving comments from the committee members, the committee did make a recommendation, and we'll be bringing back that item on the December 6th council meeting for presentation to the city council. And that concludes my report. I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Warsinski? Kyle, I just want to tell you I appreciate your still being out in front of the city hall, even though you're not.
It's dedication, sir.
Without a coat.
City Treasurer report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. There was no meeting for the FAC. It's been postponed till November 28th, where we will have an opportunity to review the draft audit before being presented to you. That's my report. Thank you.
City Clerk report.
Yes, 19 public records requests submitted and completed. Staff time allocated 6 hours. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thank you.
City Attorney report.
Yes, just briefly, some of the items that we've been working on for the city include representing the city in the City of Beaumont versus AIG. And as you know, we've been working with legal counsel for WRCOG on that matter, and we'll keep you posted on the progress of that. And then also representing the city in the IS versus City of Beaumont case, which is currently at the pleading stage. And also, we recently represented the city in a code enforcement matter involving a planned unlawful special event in a residential neighborhood. And that matter is now concluded. Also represented last month the city in the James Gregg litigation, which has been resolved. And then representing the city in the Illapatafe case in both federal court and state court. We also have assisted the city on Brown Act and conflict of interest issues as needed, and assisted the city on labor and employment matters as needed as well. We've also assisted the city and city staff on land use and contractual matters as requested to do so, and worked on the Noble Creek matter that was before you this evening, that you received an update on, and then worked on the settlement agreement on the tentative tract map 32850 matter that was before you this evening.
Thank you. City Manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to remind City Council that tomorrow at 9 a.m. at Fellowship in the Pass, we will be swearing in several new police department employees, as well as promoting others. So just a reminder that you're all invited. Also, next week, the City of Beaumont for over a decade has, city staff have delivered Thanksgiving meals to homebound seniors. And I want to applaud staff for doing this every year. My family and I have done it many years in a row, and it is very heartwarming to bring food to seniors that cannot get out or do not have families. So I encourage you, if you want to help out, contact the Chatney Center. I also want to give thanks to all of the staff members at Friday's Veterans Day Parade. It was an enormous logistical event, and I believe we pulled it off flawlessly thanks to Doug and his team, police officers, et cetera. And then lastly, I would like to announce that we will be bringing the public benefit fee item to council right around January 17th. So, and then one last thing, we will likely have the swearing in of the new council on December 9th. That is a Friday, tentatively scheduled Friday at 5 p.m. The Registrar of Voters has until December 8th to certify the election, and so we would like to do that on December 9th. So if you could mark your calendars now. Thank you. That's all I have. The department updates are in your packet.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have a scheduling conflict with the 9th December?
I do.
Is there a reason we can't do it on the 8th?
When do you fly back? Nicole's going to be at a conference.
I fly back the evening of the 8th, but that's also the day that we're supposed to get the certification. So timing-wise might be tricky.
Is it a requirement that all council members be there, or only those that are up for re-election? I don't want to hold it up.
We're just doing the swearing in, we're not doing the reorganization?
We would do a reorg so that the new mayor can set committees on December 20th in time for the January.
Okay, so how about if we try it for the 12th, December 12th? How's that look for everyone?
December 12th is fine. I just wanted to let you know I will not be here.
December.
But Christina.
Are you out that whole week?
I am, yeah. But Christina will be here.
It just won't be the same.
It's most important for all council members to be here.
Do we still have a Finance and Audit Committee meeting on the 12th? That's a regular scheduled meeting?
Correct.
So let me ask you this. So the reason you're trying to do this before the 20th is so that the mayor on the 20th can make assignments, correct?
Correct.
So on the 8th, we will know who the new council is?
We hope that the election is certified.
Okay. But, I mean, you wouldn't hold the meeting on the 9th if it wasn't certified. So anyways, on the 9th, we'll know who the new council is. That gives us 2 weeks to bring the, hopefully, there's only one new council member on the council. That gives us 2 weeks to bring that person up to speed as to what the different committees are and what ones might benefit. And then I think the rest of us could set a deadline of trying to get our choices to staff by the 9th. We can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the mayor can go ahead and make the assignments on the 20th without having to have we could swear in on the 20th?
Sure.
Does that work for everyone?
It's council's discretion.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we have a deadline?
Councilmember Santos will have to stay until the 20th.
He would anyways, right?
So you're saying we could update the new council member on the committees?
I think staff could, I mean, once you know who the new council member is, you could meet with
We
that
plan to have
person.
orientation. We're going to do an onboarding.
And talk to that person about the committees and.
Correct.
And I think that'll work. We can set ourselves a deadline of the 9th, which would give the prospective mayor the opportunity to review that for a week. Does that work?
Does that mean the 20th would be reorg
and swearing in
and
We do have
appointments? everything.
We do have a few items that we would
Yeah, of
need to go through that night, just.
I think
Well, we've
I-
done that in the past. We've done everything at once before.
Yeah, and I have
So-
set a good example tonight of how quick you could move a meeting along, correct?
Yeah, at people's expense, yeah.
Okay, so we will have our request in by the existing council members will have their request in by the 9th, and then you can work with the new council member to get that person up to speed as soon as they're able. Okay.
We can do that.
Everyone good with that?
Yes, and just to get clarification, Nicole, you'll be able to send out that list again that you did from last year, correct?
Yes.
And
Would you
then-
like me to send that via email and bring it to the next council meeting, or just via email?
Yeah, I think email's good.
And then we would be adding the youth council on there too, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So the meeting on the 20th would be normal time, 6 PM?
Yes, you have to be here, Steve.
I
Okay.
intend to.
Merry Christmas.
Okay. Future agenda items. Do we have any requests for future agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move to council reports. Mr. Laura.
Thank you, Mayor. Quickly, I attended the WRCOG meeting on Monday, November 7th. Some of the items that were discussed, Chris Gray talked about the $500 million, which has been provided for the state, from the state for housing. WRCOG is providing assistance to cities with planning activities, should they need some. And also, they are working on developing a template for design standards. I guess there's been some cities that have made a request for those in preparation of the affordable housing pipeline map and list. And that's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Santos.
Yeah, I'll just, to say thank you to our staff. I mean, especially on the second Veterans Day parade. Excellent job. I mean, Ashley, Doug, everybody there. I mean, they put it a really well-organized parade. And I like personally thank Mr. Jerry Gibbs. That's my second time. I'm honored and really proud to be with him, talking to him while having a parade. I'm not screaming on the crowd or something, talking to him. And it's really, really, a pleasure knowing him and sitting on the parade car in there. And then I attended the League of the Cities yesterday with our city manager, Ms. Gibbs in here, and also Ms. Taylor, and our Mayor Pro Temp Martinez. And that was a good presentation by the city, and also by Mr. Randall, giving us the update on the economic, what's going on, and what will happen also for the future, especially for next year, on the real estate side, development, and his company on that, Lewis Development. So other than that, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Finn.
Yes, thank you. I'm so sad that I wasn't able to attend the Veterans Day Parade and ceremony, but I want to give a thanks to staff and the city for putting that on. As a veteran, it means a lot to know that many people have gone through a lot, and to see that the staff and the city is there to support them just warms my heart, so I appreciate that. I did attend the PASCOM meeting last week. They gave a history of the PASCOM, which actually originated back in the 80s. It was given by Mr. Jim Cook and Bob Tinker. They talked about the need for volunteers across the board. And so if the city, maybe we can find a way to, if we find out volunteer events, we can use our social media that we use to help spread the word. Maybe we can put some thought to it later. I'll bring some information later on to staff on that. And then something noteworthy that I wanted to share, especially since we had a home fire recently that was a death in the city, is the Red Cross had reported that most home fires are started from overloading power strips. And so wanted to share that. So think twice before you overload it. That's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I wasn't able to attend RCA due to unexpected absence, but I did attend the collaborative agency. Quite a few reports. We had reports from the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District and the Park District and Chamber and the San Gregorio Pass Water, the hospital, library, school district. So it was a pretty good turnout. We had really thorough reports. It was interesting to see how many of those entities received county grants and money from our county, which was interesting, I thought. But it was good information, and I like going to those because I think we really get a good feel of what's going on, and we can exchange ideas and hear what some updates. So that went well. I attended the League of Cities, like Councilmember Santos said, so I won't go into that. But it was interesting to hear the speaker talk about the real estate future and so forth. So that was really informative. I do encourage my fellow council members to attend something with the Thanksgiving, whether it's delivering or doing the dinners. I go every year, and it's very rewarding. And I really enjoy that, and I want to thank staff because I can't imagine the undertaking of cooking that and setting that up. It just looks like a massive thing, so we thank everyone involved with that. And the Veterans Day ceremony, again, thank you. The staff did an awesome job. Everything went well. Parade went well. Ceremony went well. And, you know, hearing the stories from the veterans themselves is the most moving part, and that was really rewarding. So I want to thank all those that served and those that participated. And with that, that's all.
Okay, I too want to speak to the Veterans Day Parade. It's our second annual. I know that a year ago, we had an amazing turnout, and now I think the temperature was in the 90s. This year was much cooler than that, and the turnout was smaller. But I think it's important, and I understand, I think from what Ms. Gibbs told me, that in the past, that we didn't have the parade because the weather was so unpredictable. But I think if we have backup plans, if we have to move everything into the gym, I think there were a lot of people from Banning, a lot of groups from Banning. I think we're the only one who has a parade in this area. I think you have to go a long way. So hopefully we can I'd like you to try and get the pipe and drum band back. And the best part of that presentation from the veterans was that there were no politicians speaking. It was all veterans. So I think we should follow that pattern moving forward because it was a great event. And then there was a comment made by one of the speakers near the end that said, too bad we don't have a place to go and have a beer after this. And I wanted to say, well, there is one about 2 blocks away that was already open. But I think that'd be a great ending next year, is to invite them to come out, and because you can imagine the stories that would come out for another, for a little while after that. So just a suggestion for next year. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:44, and we're done.
Please.
Great job. You feel better? All right. Do you see this?